Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt heavy, tired, or strangely unmotivated without knowing why? Most people believe poverty begins in the wallet, but true poverty often begins in the mind, and your environment silently shapes that mind every single day. There is one color that, when used carelessly in your home, can reinforce stagnation, lower your energy, and keep you trapped in patterns you cannot see. This is not about superstition or magic. It is about psychology, emotion, and the invisible influence your surroundings have on your decisions. If you want to invite clarity, discipline, and abundance into your life, first understand what you should stop surrounding yourself with. Most people think that the quality of their life depends only on the amount of money they earn. They spend years searching for better opportunities, hoping that one day a larger bank account will finally bring peace, motivation, and confidence. Yet they overlook something that influences them every single day without making a sound. Before you speak a single word in the morning, before you make your first decision, before you step outside to face the world, your environment has already spoken to your mind. The walls around you, the light entering your room, the objects you see, and even the colors surrounding you begin shaping your emotional state long before you consciously notice it. This is why you should never underestimate the place you call home. Your home is not merely a shelter from the weather. It is the place where your habits are formed, where your thoughts return after every challenge, and where your subconscious quietly absorbs repeated messages. If every day you surround yourself with an atmosphere that feels heavy, dull, neglected, or lifeless, your mind slowly begins to accept those qualities as normal. You may believe you are making independent decisions, yet your environment is gently influencing your emotions, your focus, and even your expectations of what is possible. Many people ask why they feel tired even after resting, why they struggle to stay disciplined despite reading countless books, why motivation disappears so quickly. Often they search for complicated answers while ignoring the simplest influence standing right in front of them. Human beings are deeply responsive to their surroundings. Walk into a peaceful, organized, naturally lit room and notice how your breathing changes. Your shoulders relax, your thoughts become clearer. Now enter a dark, cluttered, neglected space and observe how your energy shifts without anyone saying a word. Your nervous system is constantly interpreting the signals around you. This is where color becomes important, not because a particular color possesses mystical powers, but because colors communicate with the human mind in quiet and powerful ways. They influence attention, emotion, perception, and even behavior. Certain shades can create a sense of warmth and openness, while others, especially when used excessively or without balance, may contribute to feelings of heaviness, isolation, or emotional fatigue. The problem is not the color itself. Every color has its place. The danger begins when an environment continually reinforces emotional states that weaken your spirit instead of strengthening it. Understand this carefully. Poverty does not begin the day your wallet becomes empty. Poverty often begins the moment your mind stops believing in growth. It begins when your surroundings silently teach you that comfort is more important than purpose, that survival is enough, and that tomorrow will simply repeat yesterday. Your environment either whispers possibility or repeats limitation. The voice is quiet, but it never stops. This is why awareness is so important. Instead of asking only, what should I achieve? Begin asking, what is shaping me every day? Because whatever repeatedly surrounds you eventually becomes part of your thinking. Your home should not constantly remind you of exhaustion. It should remind you of who you are becoming. Every intentional choice you make, whether cleaning a room, opening the curtains to welcome light, or selecting colors that create calm and clarity, is a quiet declaration that your life deserves attention and direction. The transformation of your future often begins with the transformation of your surroundings. There is a subtle danger in living too long in an environment that constantly drains your spirit. The greatest dangers are rarely loud. They do not announce themselves with chaos every morning. Instead, they become familiar. You stop noticing them because they have become part of your routine. This is how stagnation enters a person's life, not through one dramatic moment, but through countless ordinary days where nothing inspires you to move forward. When I speak about a color that should be used carefully in your home, I am not asking you to fear a particular shade. Fear clouds judgment while awareness sharpens it. Every color has a purpose. Every tone has its place. But when a home becomes dominated by excessively dark, lifeless, or oppressive colors without balance, it can begin reflecting an emotional state that quietly settles into the mind. Over time, what you repeatedly see becomes what you unconsciously expect from life. Imagine waking every morning in a room that feels closed, heavy, and uninspiring. At first, you may think nothing of it. You adapt. Human beings are remarkably adaptable, but adaptation is not always a blessing. Sometimes you adapt to conditions that slowly reduce your enthusiasm. You become comfortable with low energy. You begin accepting emotional heaviness as your normal state. You mistake familiarity for peace, when in reality you have simply stopped questioning what surrounds you. The mind is always learning from repetition. If every day your surroundings communicate stillness without vitality, darkness without warmth, or order without life, your subconscious begins to mirror those messages. It whispers that slowing down is enough. It suggests that postponing your dreams until tomorrow is acceptable. It encourages comfort over growth. None of this happens because a color possesses magical power. It happens because the human mind forms associations. Your environment becomes a silent teacher, repeating the same lesson every day until you believe it. Look carefully at nature. Even the darkest forests are filled with light breaking through the trees. The night always gives way to dawn. Balance exists everywhere. Darkness itself is not the enemy. Rest is not the enemy. Silence is not the enemy. The problem begins when darkness becomes permanent, when heaviness becomes your identity instead of your temporary experience. A room that never feels alive can quietly reinforce a life that no longer reaches for possibility. Many people wait for motivation before changing their environment, but often the opposite is true. Change your environment first and motivation begins to appear naturally. Open the curtains, allow sunlight to enter. Introduce warmth where there was coldness. Bring life into neglected spaces. Remove what constantly reminds you of exhaustion. These small actions send powerful signals to your nervous system. They communicate movement instead of stagnation. They tell your mind that something new is possible. Notice how different you feel after entering a clean, bright, peaceful room. Your breathing becomes slower, your thoughts become less scattered. You stand a little taller without realizing it. This is not coincidence. Your surroundings influence your emotional state long before your conscious mind begins analyzing it. If your home consistently encourages clarity, your mind finds it easier to think clearly. If your home consistently reflects neglect, your mind gradually becomes more accepting of neglect in other areas of life as well. Many people believe they are trapped by external circumstances, yet they rarely examine the invisible conversations taking place between their environment and their subconscious. Every wall, every object, every color quietly asks a question. Is this a place where growth lives? If the answer repeated every day is no, then your actions will slowly begin matching that expectation. Never allow your surroundings to convince you that standing still is the same as living. Many people spend their entire lives chasing wealth, believing that if they could only earn a little more, all of their problems would disappear. They imagine that abundance begins with a paycheck, an investment, or a fortunate opportunity. But if this were true, then every person with a high income would live with peace, purpose, and fulfillment. Yet we know this is not the case. There are people with very little who continue moving forward with determination, and there are people with great financial resources who remain trapped in fear, confusion, and endless dissatisfaction. This should tell you something important. Wealth begins long before money arrives. True prosperity begins with energy, not the kind of energy that comes from excitement for a single day, but the steady energy that allows you to wake up with intention, remain disciplined when motivation fades, and continue taking action even when results are slow. This kind of energy cannot be purchased, it is cultivated. It grows from the relationship between your mind, your habits, and the environment you create around yourself. This is why your surroundings matter so deeply. Every morning, your home either prepares you to face the world with clarity or sends you into the day already mentally exhausted. If your environment constantly feels heavy, neglected, or uninspiring, your mind must spend precious energy overcoming that resistance before it can focus on meaningful work. Imagine trying to run while carrying a heavy stone on your shoulders. You may still move, but every step requires more effort than necessary. Many people live this way without realizing it. They believe life itself is difficult, when in reality they are carrying unnecessary mental weight every single day. When your surroundings encourage peace and order, something remarkable happens. Your thoughts become less scattered. Your attention remains longer on important tasks. Decisions become easier because your mind is no longer overwhelmed by constant visual noise. Creativity begins to emerge because the mind finally has room to breathe. You do not need to force inspiration as much because your environment is no longer working against you. This is why disciplined people often value simplicity. They understand that every unnecessary distraction steals a little attention. Every neglected corner quietly reminds the mind of unfinished work. Every space filled with disorder competes for your focus, even if you are not consciously looking at it. A peaceful environment protects your attention, and attention is one of the greatest forms of wealth a human being possesses. Consider how a craftsman prepares his workspace before beginning his work. He arranges his tools carefully. He removes unnecessary obstacles. He creates an atmosphere where concentration can flourish. He understands that excellence rarely grows from chaos. Yet many people expect excellence from themselves while living in environments that constantly interrupt their focus. They wish for discipline while surrounding themselves with reminders of distraction. They pray for abundance while accepting conditions that encourage passivity. Understand that abundance is not only measured by what enters your bank account, it is measured by the quality of your decisions. Better decisions create better actions. Better actions create better habits. Better habits eventually create better opportunities. This chain begins inside the mind, and the mind is deeply influenced by what it repeatedly experiences every day. This is also why changing your environment is never merely about decoration. It is about alignment. When your home reflects order, your thoughts gradually seek order. When your surroundings communicate care, you begin treating yourself and your goals with greater care. When light enters your space, hope often enters your thinking. These changes may appear small, but they accumulate over weeks, months, and years until they quietly reshape the direction of your life. Do not misunderstand this message. A brighter room will not automatically make you wealthy, and a different color on your walls will not replace hard work. But a supportive environment can strengthen the qualities that create lasting prosperity, clarity, discipline, consistency, and purposeful action. Money is often the visible result of invisible habits repeated over time. If you wish to change the result, begin by strengthening what produces it. The greatest investment you can make is to create an environment that reminds you every day to become the person capable of building the life you seek. There comes a moment in every person's life when excuses become heavier than the circumstances themselves. Until that moment arrives, it is easy to believe that everything outside of you is responsible for where you stand today. You blame the economy, your past, the people who disappointed you, the opportunities you never received, or the luck that never seemed to come your way. While some of these challenges are real, there is another question that few people are willing to ask themselves: what have I been silently accepting every single day? Your life is not shaped only by the big decisions you make once in a while. It is shaped even more by the standards you tolerate every day. Walk through your home with honest eyes, not with the eyes of habit. Look at the corners you stopped noticing. Look at the broken items you promised yourself you would fix months ago. Look at the clutter that keeps growing because I'll deal with it later. Look at the rooms that no longer inspire peace but simply exist because you have become accustomed to them. The danger is not the clutter itself. The danger is the message it sends to your mind. Every unfinished task quietly says, "This can wait." Every neglected object whispers, "This is good enough." Every promise you make to yourself and fail to keep weakens the trust you have in your own discipline. Eventually, these whispers become your inner voice. You begin approaching your goals with the same attitude. You delay important conversations. You postpone meaningful work. You tell yourself there will always be another tomorrow. Understand this carefully. What you repeatedly accept becomes part of your identity. If you accept disorder around you, it becomes easier to accept disorder within you. If you tolerate neglect in your surroundings, you slowly begin tolerating neglected dreams, neglected health, neglected relationships, and neglected potential. This is why transformation does not begin with dramatic gestures. It begins with raising your standards in the smallest places first. Many people dream about living in a better home someday. They tell themselves, when I have more money, then I will create a beautiful environment. But wisdom moves in the opposite direction. Care for what you already have. Respect the space that currently protects you. A person who cannot honor a small room will rarely appreciate a large house. Gratitude is not measured by the size of what you own, but by the care you give to it. Your home is a reflection of your relationship with yourself. It does not need to be expensive. It does not need luxurious furniture or perfect decorations. It needs intention. A clean floor speaks of discipline. An organized room reflects clarity. Natural light welcomed into your home reflects openness. Even choosing colors that create warmth instead of heaviness becomes a quiet declaration that you refuse to settle for emotional stagnation. Ask yourself this: if a stranger walked into your home without knowing anything about you, what story would your surroundings tell? Would they see a person preparing for growth or someone waiting for life to change first? Would they see purpose, care, and direction, or signs of postponement and resignation? The answer is not meant to create guilt. It is meant to awaken awareness. Awareness is where every meaningful change begins. Responsibility is often misunderstood. People think it means carrying the weight of every problem alone, but true responsibility means recognizing the part that belongs to you. You may not control every event that enters your life, but you can decide what kind of environment welcomes you home each day. You can decide whether your surroundings remind you of who you were or encourage the person you are becoming. Stop waiting for perfect circumstances before you begin honoring your own life. Raise your standards and your life will begin to rise with them. At this point, some people may begin asking a simple question. If I change the colors in my home, will my life suddenly change? The answer is no. If transformation were that easy, then every beautifully decorated house would be filled with peaceful, successful people. We know this is not true. A pleasant environment can support your growth, but it cannot replace your choices. A brighter wall cannot make difficult decisions for you. A carefully designed room cannot wake up early on your behalf. No color has the power to overcome laziness, fear, or a lack of discipline. Those battles are fought within the mind. This is why you must be careful not to replace wisdom with superstition. Throughout history, people have searched for shortcuts. They have looked for lucky objects, magical rituals, and secret formulas that promise wealth without effort. But life does not reward appearances. It rewards alignment. When your thoughts, your habits, your environment, and your actions all move in the same direction, progress becomes possible. When they pull against one another, even the greatest opportunities begin slipping away. The purpose of choosing your surroundings intentionally is not to invite magic. It is to remove unnecessary resistance. Think of a gardener preparing the soil before planting seeds. The soil itself does not create the harvest. The seed must still grow. The sun must still shine. Water must still nourish the roots. But healthy soil gives life the opportunity to flourish. Your home serves the same purpose. It prepares the ground upon which your daily habits grow. This is why I encourage you to replace fear with conscious intention. Do not walk through your home wondering which object is cursed or which color is unlucky. Walk through your home asking a different question. Does this space strengthen the person I wish to become? That question changes everything. Suddenly, your decisions are no longer driven by anxiety. They are guided by purpose. Perhaps you notice that a room feels unusually heavy because it receives little light. Instead of becoming fearful, you open the curtains. Perhaps one wall feels cold and lifeless, so you introduce warmer, more balanced tones that create calm instead of emotional weight. Perhaps you bring in a healthy plant, simplify unnecessary decorations, or remove broken items that have been silently asking for your attention. None of these actions possess mystical power. Their power lies in the message they communicate to your own mind. Every intentional improvement tells your subconscious, I care about the quality of my life. Every small act of order tells your mind, I no longer accept neglect. Every decision made with awareness strengthens your belief that change is possible. Confidence rarely appears before action. More often, confidence grows because of repeated actions that prove to yourself you are capable of improving your life. Notice how different this approach feels compared to living in fear. Fear makes you suspicious of everything around you. Intention makes you responsible for everything within your reach. Fear convinces you that invisible forces control your future. Intention reminds you that your daily choices quietly shape your destiny. One leaves you powerless, the other restores your strength. There is great freedom in understanding this distinction. You no longer need to search endlessly for hidden signs or secret meanings behind every detail in your home. Instead, you become deeply aware of the atmosphere you create. You recognize that peace is cultivated through countless thoughtful decisions rather than dramatic moments. You understand that your surroundings are not meant to control your life, but to support the values you practice every day. When your home reflects clarity, your thinking becomes clearer. When your surroundings reflect care, you naturally become more careful with your words, your time, your finances, and your relationships. Slowly, your external environment begins reinforcing the person you are working to become. Never seek a miracle where disciplined intention is already enough. As we come to the end of this reflection, I want you to remember one simple truth. Your home is more than a place where you sleep. It is the space that silently shapes the person you become. Every day, it either restores your energy or slowly drains it. It either reminds you of your purpose or distracts you from it. Long before the world sees your actions, your environment has already influenced your thoughts. This is why creating a home with intention is not a luxury. It is an act of self-respect. Many people dream of changing their lives while ignoring the place where those dreams are meant to grow. They wait for the perfect house, the perfect income, or the perfect moment before deciding to live with greater care. But transformation has never depended on perfection. It has always depended on intention. A small, peaceful room filled with light, order, and purpose has greater value than a large house filled with neglect and emotional heaviness. The size of your home does not determine the quality of your life. The consciousness with which you care for it does. Ask yourself a simple question each morning when you wake up. Does this space encourage the person I want to become? Does it invite calm instead of anxiety? Does it support focus instead of distraction? Does it reflect discipline instead of postponement? These questions matter because every answer quietly influences the choices you make throughout the day. Do not become obsessed with finding the perfect color, the perfect decoration, or the perfect arrangement. Perfection is another form of delay. Simplicity is enough. Clean the space you already have. Allow natural light to enter whenever possible. Remove what no longer serves a meaningful purpose. Choose colors that create balance, warmth, clarity, and peace rather than emotional heaviness.